Well, we made it. One, I would say a couple things to start. Huge thank you to this room. I think, like, most of the community just assumes these things happen and coverage is great and life is just kind of rolls out and goes on. You guys did a unbelievable part, I think, just covering not just the tournament, but the city, Fan Fest, the experiences that went with it. So I think kudos to you guys, because I know, like all of us, it was a lift in addition to our day jobs, or as I've told our team, consistently other duties as described. So maybe just a couple high-level things. I think it's been, the last 2 days have been fun waking up and being like, wait, we don't have any more World Cup activities going on. So it's been good to reflect. I think, one, I don't think it could have gone much better, at least from our point of view. I think that's not the sporting hat. I think that's just the Kansas City hat. I think just an incredible experience for the fans, experience for the city, for whether it's the business community, civic community, fans of the sport, visitors to the region, to the city. I think the teams that base camped here, the fans that followed them around, I think it's hard to look and nitpick on anything that really didn't go exceptionally well. And I think we were all probably nervous about a bunch of stuff on the front end. Certainly we were, from a facility standpoint and from just kind of a preparation standpoint. But I think I certainly have rose-colored glasses on as I sit here. But it's been so awesome to look at just the response from the community in large. And I think all the things that we were probably concerned with on the front end didn't play out, right? I mean, people wanted to come in, they wanted to experience the culture, they wanted to experience the city. I think it was fun for me as a fan, just walking around Fan Fest some days, walking around downtown, going to lunch and seeing pop-up watch parties happening on random days. And so I think for me as a board member, incredibly proud of what happened. For me as the CEO of the club, I think you look at what we delivered for Argentina and for England. I think they have two teams that finished in the top three. I was pulling for Argentina in the final, just to be clear. But it was amazing. I think, and those teams have been incredible. I give our staff a massive pat on the back, including Robo and Patrick, who have been really helping on the front end from a media and just national coverage. But I think our facilities teams and all of our operations teams did an amazing job. So super proud, super excited. Also excited to have my day job back and only one job to focus on. But overall, I think it was fantastic. So happy to answer any questions you guys have.
Open for questions. Barry?
Obviously, locally, the World Cup took pretty big center focus, but for the way that the city showed up nationally too within the World Cup in terms of fan experience, watching people from the outside look into Kansas City and kind of marvel at it. What's been your kind of takeaway from how the world has reacted to Kansas City and maybe even the way Argentina and England have reacted to kind of sharing your guys' facilities?
Yeah, I think, we've talked about soccer capital of America for a long time, and part of that was probably us willing it into existence, but we didn't have to say it during the tournament. Everyone else said it for us, right? I think if you look at the media coverage nationally, internationally, I'm getting texts from friends in England and friends internationally and people all across the country just talking about how amazing Kansas City has shown up. And so I think that doesn't happen by accident. That's a lot of preparation. That's a lot of work that goes into it. I think that's part of the, as Cliff would talk about, the experience design factor there, and how do we make sure that as much as we can control, we do, to make sure that from the time they get off that plane or bus or car or whatever, that they experience the best of Kansas City. I think if you're talking to the teams and the clubs, and I personally spent more time with England than Argentina, just based on the relationship. I mean, they couldn't have been happier, right? I think the community embraced them. They felt like family is how they would describe it, from the hotel to the, I'm sure you saw the note the bus driver left. I mean, all these things I think are part of what leads to how did Kansas City do, and I think we came out on top. In my opinion, I think if you look at the articles in the press, Kansas City, if not the best, we're certainly in a discussion.
And then obviously the eyeball from the public on viewing the tournament was huge, and obviously Kansas City led the ratings for the World Cup for a long time, even into the knockout phase there. How now, as you move forward, obviously, that's to the numbers that were coming out. It's not just leading it with, a 2 million viewership. It's leading it with, 30, 40 million. How does Sporting KC now capitalize on that? Because I think that might show that there's a much larger interest on the casual side, outside of, the fan base and the culture that you guys have already cultivated over the few years.
Yeah, I think a couple of things. One, historically, Kansas City's always done great on the broadcast side for big, I'd say, U.S. matches. But even marquee, you look at Champions League finals. Kansas City's usually in the top, 5 markets. And so I think for us on a sporting side, the nuance and difference amongst many with this tournament, being in the U.S. it was hard to predict what to expect, right? I think if you look at any other tournament where you're watching the U.S. games and you might watch another game, but half the games are at 2 in the morning or 4 in the morning. And so you can't really get super engaged with the tournament unless you're a diehard fan, right? Casual fans had no choice for this one, right? And so whether it was the Holland storyline that everyone fell in love with, or pick your crazy internet moment. And I think that's the other one. Like the last time this tournament happened, like we were talking about this in tournament, like the internet barely existed, right? Social media certainly didn't exist. And so I think what happens when you look at 2026 is you couldn't get away from it, even if you wanted to. And I'm sure some people did, but that sucked in a much larger audience into the sport. And I think for us now, it's how do we keep that momentum going? And I agree. I think we have, to us, the diehards are always going to be there, and we've got to deliver on that. But now you've got the casual fans and just sports fans in general who probably weren't huge soccer fans, and certainly maybe not sporting fans, that are now interested in the sport. So I think it's on us to keep that going. And there's no silver bullet on that. I think improving the roster we're working on. I think we need to get better on the field, which the guys are underway on. And I think it's for us, how do we get those casual fans to the stadium? Because we know the experience when they're in that venue will get you back.
Just looking at just some clubs around the world, it seems like kind of a lot of crowds are maybe doing a little World Cup hangover, going from every match being so intense to kind of watching regular season play. Are y'all factoring for that with these upcoming home matches, and what can you do to make sure everything stays exciting, along with all the additions and things going on?
Yeah, it's hard for me to roll out Argentina, Spain, although that might not be the best example of exciting. But listen, I think for us, we've got a ton going on tomorrow night in stadium around the event, right? I think you guys have heard me say, I can't really control what happens between the white lines. I can control a lot outside of that. And so how do we do that? And I would tell you, looking at World Cup, looking at Fan Fest, looking at some of the things that happen, like we had a discussion this morning about, hey, we should look at some things differently, right? Things that took place that we didn't anticipate would be massive, deals for people or great experiences did. And I think that's the beauty of the way I try to look at, like, I don't have all the answers, right? But we should be smart enough to ask the right questions of, like, why did that work and how can we go do that? And so, yeah, will there be a little bit of a hangover from going to the most intense competition in the history of sport into regular season? Sure, that's not a knock on MLS. That's going to be true for any sport, right? And so I think for us, it's how do we keep the excitement, keep the energy, keep that going as we get back to regular season play tomorrow night.
And then with the concert series, how did y'all like, opening the plaza up for that, and just what were the outcomes and takeaways from all that going on?
Yeah, overall, I think extremely positive. Like anything else, when you do it the first time, we learned a couple of things that we would do differently. But I think overall, the feedback was tremendous. I think, obviously the marquee was Third Eye Blind on the third place match, which ended up being a pretty entertaining match as well. And so, yeah, I think for us, we learned a lot about, listen, that's literally the first time we've done a concert out there, that we've done anything of magnitude on the plaza. And so I think the feedback overall was extremely positive. We tried to make sure that the activations were great for all ages, and I think you look at Saturday, it ends up being a great game followed by a great concert. So we hit that one on the mark.
I know it's hard to predict, but what do you think the long-term implications are for both Kansas City as a city and for the team for Sporting KC?
Yeah, I think for the city, what we talked about at the beginning, I think is what ended up happening, which is people always ask, what do you want the outcome of the World Cup to be, right, for Kansas City? And I think our answer was always, you want people to view the city and understand what we're about, right? The people, the culture here, Midwest nice, and get the spotlight on there. I think before World Cup, if you'd asked a random international audience of 10, have you heard of Kansas City? Probably not. Or what do you know about Kansas City? Not a lot of answers. Now, it's going to be hard pressed for people to not know Kansas City, to not know where we are, what we're about. You hosted England, you hosted Argentina, you had a quarterfinal, you had all these things. And so I think for the city, it's then how do you then make sure that you stay on the front foot, right? We did a lot with Casey House and the business community and making sure that we were welcoming from that side of it as well. So there's the fan side, which is good, and we want them to come back and experience KC. And I think it's like the stadium. We always say we hope when you leave the stadium, you're like, hey, I got to bring 3 people back with me next time. Hopefully that's the case for when you're traveling and you're debating on where to go. Come back to Kansas City. Then I think there's the business side of it, and how do we ensure that if people are looking at where to go and where to relocate, that we're top of mind. And I think so. If nothing else, I think 1, not only is there awareness, 2, I think extremely positive awareness of what we did and what we accomplished. I think from the club side, it's a lot of the same. How do we talked about this in the front end, having those 2 teams here, make no mistake, it was a heavy lift for our team. If it was up to some of our folks, they probably would not have wanted to deal with it. I think now, I talked to a bunch of them on the way out, like the staff they had players asking about, hey, tell me more about MLS, what's it look like to go there, what's the deal? And so I think you have that awareness, and all these guys are going to go back. They're going to go back to their club teams. There will be a point in time in the future where someone says, hey, we're talking to this team in KC, and they're going to say, hey, let me tell you about my experience in Kansas City. And I think for us, that's, how do you keep that going? And then I think, right now, how do you leverage that into the excitement of the window that we're in the summer as we're trying to kind of, round out the roster, and that's, what kind of David is actively working on.
And then are you ready to start working on the next World Cup?
I told this to Pam Kramer on the plane ride back from the final. I was like, I'm super proud of what I did, but I'm ready to pass the baton to whoever is ready next. All kidding aside, if we're fortunate enough to get these big events going forward, I'll be happy to help however I can. Just maybe not as in depth and after I go on vacation.
Jake, that kind of perfectly leads into what I wanted to ask. Obviously, by all accounts, the World Cup was a success in the U.S., and it doesn't seem like we'll have to wait another 30 years for the U.S. to host this event. Given the success that Kansas City had, do you think it's set itself up as a city to be in host consideration again, should a World Cup come back to the States?
Yeah, I don't know if I would love for someone to argue how we couldn't be. It would be an interesting discussion to have. I just think if you look at what we're able to do, the way we rallied 2 sides of the state line together, the way we rallied the region together, I think just go through the list. Broadcast, we already talked about, top of the list. Fan Fest, I would welcome the argument how someone had a better Fan Fest than we did. I think the experience of the facilities, the base camps, the stadiums, all that was tremendous. And I think just the way the city wrapped their arms around everybody that came in, again, I just go back to tell me who did it better than we did. And I'm not saying we were number 1, but we're in the discussion. And so, yeah, I think this firmly, another outcome would be, if you're a massive event and you're debating on coming to Kansas City, and that could be Final Fours, Super Bowls, you name it, I think we just proved that we can handle whatever you throw at us, which I think might be the biggest legacy point coming out of this, is there's no doubt at this point, Kansas City could take on whatever you need us to take on.
Here, hello. So for Sporting Kansas City, having Argentina and England and taking part of one of the key part of the city, because you host 2 of the 3 best teams in the World Cup. So if you have any data to share, what is the biggest impact that you are seeing or you had during the World Cup for Sporting Kansas City itself?
I think right now it's the awareness factor we talked about. I think if you would have talked to, Messi aside, who's been here, everyone else had never been to this, probably to Kansas City, certainly at our facilities, certainly had no experience to Major League Soccer for the most part. And I think a lot of the feedback we initially heard, even at Swope from England, was like they could not believe this was a training facility for a Major League Soccer franchise, right? A lot of the folks that were here from Argentina, this is the best facility they've ever trained in. And so I think the key there is then how do you turn that into something that's actually good for us, other than just people patting us on the back saying you did a great job. And I think that's where all these guys have agents. The agents deal with a ton of different players, right? And so I think we now have a level of credibility and awareness that we didn't before, and I think that's really important to keep going. And I think for us, that really is the leverage point. If you're talking about, how do we take advantage of sporting? Am I going to get a bunch of Argentina fans that come back to the game tomorrow night? Probably not. Do we have a chance to have discussions as we go forward now that these folks know who we are, as we're talking about players, as we're talking about identifying prospects going forward? I think that's a real tangible opportunity for us.
Any other questions? Nope.
I was going to ask, I know people have kind of talked about the next World Cup, but also, is there discussions for hosting the 2031 World Cup if the U.S. were to bid, and how much Kansas City is interested in being a part of that, and how much did you learn from this process that maybe alludes to being confident and kind of moving forward if the 2031 Women's World Cup were to come to KC?
Yeah. I'm 48 hours removed, so I haven't thought about it a ton yet. There's definitely discussions. I think some active with U.S. soccer and what that would look like. Would Kansas City love to host? Absolutely, we would. Where that would be, what that looks like, that I'm not close enough to at this point. But listen, I think, again, there's a postmortem that hasn't happened yet with the board and the KC 2026 folks, but a couple things that are obvious to me, right? Like, we have a blueprint now that we can just give to somebody, right? It's not going to be exact, but I think transportation was exceptional and very hard to get propped up. I think if you look at the execution of how to pull both sides together, police, law enforcement, honestly, that group deserves a ton of credit for what they did. It was a massive lift for all the PDs in the area. They needed a massive influx of folks from outside the region, and I think they did an exceptional job, right? None of these are, I don't think, confirmed yet, but I heard crime was down, homicide was down, everything, they did an exceptional job. So I think what that leads to is you now have a plan of okay, here's what, definitely do this, don't do this, but we can now deliver the path to do that. And I think we know how to navigate, who to talk to, how that works. And more importantly, the people that you need to do it have already done it. And I think that's maybe the most important thing is going in. There was a lot of just questions and unknowns because we'd never done it to this magnitude. And now we have. And I think that gives not just the region confidence, but I think the people who are actually going to be on the ground doing it confidence. And so, yeah, I think 2031, if we did it, easier is the wrong term to use because it's never easy on the magnitude of those events, but certainly a clear pathway to get there. And I think the credibility from the U.S. soccer and FIFA, right? Kansas City was a big risk for them, I think, as the smallest market, and I think that risk is now gone.
Thank you, sir.
You mentioned the postmortem. Just what does that look like in the next month or so of the evaluation of everything and just evaluating how each part of the process went?
Yeah, I think that will be Pam Kramer and her team will be going through and kind of there's a huge reconciliation of the tournament and what happened, what worked, what didn't, and I think we've all agreed let's ask the question of what could we have done better, what would we do different if we did have a chance to do it again, because we shouldn't just rinse and repeat, right? There's plenty of things that I think as we will go through it that we would say we would change. So that will probably take 35 to 45 to 60 days, I would guess, to go through. I think we got a board meeting sometime in September that just hit my calendar, which I imagine would be a pretty good recap of what happened. But we were joking on the plane right back. This is like when our season ends and people are like, oh, you going away for 3 months? No, this is when you actually work. And so they got a big lift to kind of close this thing out. But I think it'll be a good process to go through.
Coach, just a home game now after Thursday's result. Goodness. What's been the kind of talking point now after coming off that game? I know it was 30 minutes or so. Even Manu said it afterwards. The team kind of disconnected there. What's been the conversations this week to kind of right the ship a little bit as you build into the second half of the year?
It's basically what you just described. The conversation was that the first, we started pretty well the first 3-4 minutes with good pressing moments against St. Louis, but with the ball, we were just not, I think, brave enough, good enough to keep the ball ourselves a bit longer, and then we sort of got under pressure, lost balls, and then we dropped a little bit and defended. Didn't really concede extremely many chances there, but we were obviously not good enough with the ball, and then at the end, but it was 2-0 at the end of the first half. I think we adjusted a few things and had a few better moments. and we addressed that in halftime and changed certain things. And I think in the second half we had better moments, way better moments, where we also had good spells with the ball. So the message was we need this from minute one, right? For whatever reason we didn't show that, we want to show that from minute one. And then the other message was, hey, I think the character the team showed was really good, coming back in a difficult place. It was a 2-2. I felt after the 2-2 we had energy, we had momentum. And then obviously the penalty is a hard one, and hurts you then when you already come back from a 2-0. But we addressed what we have to do better, but we also took out what I think was good.
A guy like Amir coming on in the second half really seemed to bring a lot of calm and confidence. Just what's been maybe your takeaway from him health-wise? Is his first 45 minutes there in a tough condition? Is he potentially ready to start? And just what kind of impact are you seeing on him, or seeing from him on the rest of the group with kind of his attitude and the way he talks and kind of coaches other guys on the field a bit?
Yeah, I wasn't surprised with what I've seen from Amir. I mean, I know him obviously, and we scouted him, and I saw him in training a little bit, and I knew, or I know that Amir or Mosquera, I have seen him now in training when he's starting to get integrated. They will make this team a lot better, and they will help. That's why they're here. Now it's a question of, with Amir, is a question of how long can he play, right? We need to integrate him. He had 45 minutes for him as well. That was a tough 45 minutes physically because of the humidity and everything. So it's now step by step getting him more ready every week. He is available to start or to come from the bench. I will decide that then. And yes, everything you said is true. He brings experience. He brings calmness with the ball. He reads the game well. But that's not a surprise to me, and that's obviously what I expect from him to bring. And I'm like I said, I know that these players will make us better. Now it's just a question how fast, how soon can they be 90 minutes ready? That's where we always have to be careful. Not only here in Sporting Kansas City, every team who integrates players in the middle of the season when they are not in the same shape, you have to be careful not having setbacks. So we've got to be careful with Moises as well when he starts coming into.
Speaking of Moises, now that you've had him in practice at least a little bit, what is the qualities you're seeing from him in practice?
Confirmation from what we're looking for and what we saw on video. He's very athletic, he's very physical, he's fast, has pace. He will add this to our back line, to our group of centre backs, and on top of that, what I've seen so far, but it's he's comfortable with the ball as well. I like his personality when he's on the field. He trains to win. But again, I haven't had him in a full team training yet. We're just integrating him slowly. So that's what I've seen, and I believe 100% that these players will make this team much better when they're 100% fit.
Then how's health? Is Wyatt back in? And I know there's 3 guys that were out last week. How are they doing?
Wyatt is back in. He was sick. He traveled to St. Louis and then was sick there, so he's back in. So he's available. Justin, Diego, and Taylor are still not available.
I was going to ask, I know transfer is not your thing, but if you're, as you assess this squad and kind of look at it, what do you think this squad needs a little bit more of outside of just, get good players kind of a thing? Is there like a certain leadership quality? Is there like a kind of a dynamic that someone can bring? Then what's kind of your hope to see with this roster at the end of it?
Yeah, I mean, nothing new from what probably David has mentioned when he spoke about the roster, but yes, we are looking for players who make this team better. We definitely don't want more width or depth. We are looking for players who will make this team who have an immediate impact in whatever position we're looking for, and I'm 100% confident and trust David and his team that the players who will come, they will make us better. Like the new players we have here right now, they have an impact in this team, and whenever more will come, I trust him, and I'm sure that they will also have an impact to our team. So it's not about age or it's a bit, certain positions need a bit more of experience, but you can be 23 and have 150 games. You can be, it's not only the age, right? So again, I'm not talking about age or so of position. I think in certain positions we need a little bit more game experience, which we have now added with Moises, with Or, with Emir. And I think then all the younger or unexperienced players can also take advantage of them.
Hola, mister.
Hola.
Habiendo ido a la pausa por el Mundial, ya el equipo mejorando, ¿no? Y ahora regresar con una derrota en San Luis, que como ya decía, fue un poco dolorosa por ese penal al final. ¿Cómo afrontan desde el punto de vista de la mentalidad, incorporando nuevos chicos al roster, el equipo para volver a ese nivel que tenía antes de la pausa y quizás conseguir victorias que lo saquen del fondo de la tabla?
Bueno, primero yo pienso que es un proceso y va a ser un proceso hasta el final del año, porque sí, tenemos nuevos jugadores, pero el único que era listo para jugar es Or. Al lado de Or era lo mismo equipo que antes del Mundial. Los otros, como he dicho ahora en inglés, los otros jugadores como Emir y como Moises van a mejorar el equipo a 100%, pero no son listos a jugar 90 minutos cada 3 días. Entonces, lo más importante era en la pretemporada, si la llamamos pretemporada, de trabajar en el departamento físico, que el equipo mejora físicamente, siguiendo trabajando en la táctica donde queremos jugar, pero todo eso y integrar los nuevos, y integrar los jugadores que vienen más cuando vienen, sería un proceso hasta este final del año de integrar jugadores y mejorar como grupo. Ahora es una derrota, pero hemos how do you say, we were competitive.
Competitivos.
Somos competitivos, volvemos a 2-0 a 2-2 y en el 2-2 tenemos momentum, energía, y eso es positivo. Y yo pienso que si somos competitivos en cada partido, o en más partidos que no, vamos a tener oportunidades de ganar partidos, seguro. Pero todo eso va a ser un proceso, eso seguro.
Teniendo en cuenta la debilidad defensiva del equipo, y ahora teniendo con Mosquera, con Or, varios centrales dentro del grupo, ¿ha pensado quizás un cambio táctico y jugar con 3 en el fondo y 2 wings? O sea, porque el lateral derecho, como que por ahí Justin no ha estado al 100% en la temporada, etcétera. O sea, ¿cómo evalúa ustedes para darle una solución al equipo desde el punto de vista defensivo?
Sí, no, por el momento no he pensado eso, porque Moises no está listo para jugar, Emir no era lista para jugar, entonces, como he dicho, es Or y los otros son los mismos jugadores que antes la pausa. Entonces, no he pensado a jugar con una línea de 3, pero cuando todo el equipo está listo, está fit y los jugadores son a tope, seguro es una posibilidad de cambiar el sistema. Como he dicho siempre, el sistema para mí no es lo más importante. Si quieres defender bajo, puedes hacerlo con una línea de 5, como una línea de 4. Si quieres presionar muy alto, puedes hacerlo con cualquier sistema también. Es más de principios. Pero antes de pensar a un cambio de sistema, necesito los jugadores a tope físicamente, y eso va a tener un rato más.
Rafa, first home game post World Cup. I know there's been a lot of talk about the club trying to build on the momentum that the World Cup has brought to this country and maybe have new fans coming to the stadium for the first time. How important of an opportunity is this for the club, for the team to, put in a good performance and maybe give the reason for some of these new fans to come back for more?
Yeah, this is a great opportunity for us. That's what we see as well. I mean, obviously we wanna have the fans in the stadium, and it depends on us. It depends on our performances. And like you said, I think the first thing is we wanna have a good performance. We wanna perform as a team. We wanna show everyone that we're a team, that we're brave, that we're trying to attack, that we're trying to not just sit. But obviously it's 100 degrees outside. Sometimes you probably have to defend and sit a little bit. But it's the performance. And when we show the people that we are competitive, then I believe that the people will come and support us even more. And with having good performances and being competitive, you have bigger chances to win games. In the end of the day, we all start every game to win games, but every team does that. But I think we have to give ourselves the best possibility to have a good performance with that, the chances to win.
You guys are taking on Minnesota tomorrow. I know it's the first time you guys are meeting this season, but what challenges have you seen from them, and what would it take to get the win?
Yeah, I mean, they're a team. I think they're a team who are, you can see that together since a while. Even they had a coaching change as well in January, but the majority of the team has played together for a bit. They're a physical team. They have good players, like every team in MLS has good players, but they're physical, strong on set pieces as well. They were already strong on set pieces last year, and I think they added another layer of football to their game in comparison to last season, but that's probably normal when you have a coaching change, that certain things change. So they play definitely more than they did last year. They were very direct last year. They were sitting pretty deep last year, and I think they've changed that. So it's a similar group as they had before, but with slightly different tactics, maybe a similar shape than last year, but they will press high in moments. Then they will be very compact, but they will also, it's a team who plays. We have played them in preseason, not with the preseason in January or February, but even there you could see that this team wants to play. So it's always the same. Me and my staff, we try to give our team a clear picture on what we will face tomorrow, and then it's about us. Then it's what do we want to do, what can we do better than we did in St. Louis, what can we take out of St. Louis which was good and repeat, and what can we add to hurt this team, and that's how we prepare the games.
Hey man, Manu after the game against St. Louis kind of talked about the first second there in the first half. You guys kind of maybe disconnected a little bit from the game. It's been a trend at times throughout the year. How do you guys stop that? I mean, what is it? How do you find the ways to kind of keep locked in and focused even when you don't have the ball or when things might not be going your way in the game?
Well, there's I would say there's several ways to try to avoid this situation. You know, first of all, you know, we try to work on this in training sessions. You know, we got to repeat a lot of different drills. You know, we got to try to repeat the game plan that we're trying to have for the game. So yeah, a lot of different things that we got to work on. So for sure, you know, we got to be able to focus a lot, you know, for 90 minutes as well. The conditions were not easy as well. You know, it was really hot. So sometimes, you know, it's not laziness necessarily, but it's just like sometimes, you know, like we got to make the extra effort every single moment of the game. If one guy falls down, man, maybe, you know, there's someone to back him up a little bit. So yeah, I think like it was a lot of everything, you know, but like Manu said, you know, the first 3, 4, 5 minutes, I know it's not long enough, but like the pressing was kind of interesting. Then, you know, I think they adapted a little bit the way they play. St. Louis, we knew it's a team that liked to possess the ball. You know, it was not so easy, you know, to press them. It was not. It was something I think we're not familiar with. So we had to adapt, and I think, you know, we came back in the second half, you know, with some other ideas, and I think they're not able to move the ball the same way they were doing it in the first half. So yeah, we kind of adapted. So the goal is for us to be able to identify what they're doing, and, you know, not necessarily wait for the coach to tell us like what to do. You know, we've got to be able to see and adapt like during the game. So I think this is one thing that, yeah, we got to work on.
One thing that kind of struck me about the signings that you guys brought in over the break was they've played as many pro seasons as the entire back line had before, like combined. How much has their experience helped shape things kind of as they've come in? It seemed like when Amir came on in the second half, he really helped shore up things on that left-hand side. Or same thing, I know Moises, well, once he gets integrated, has a lot of experience in Liga MX, which is a kind of very similar league in some of the things that they do. So how do you feel that experience helps you guys as a group? It also kind of adds maybe to the leadership of this team in a way where they can impart that wisdom and experience on others.
Yeah, no, so I think we were all able to see that, or even Emir, when he came in, he was able to bring a lot of interest things in the field, and I think this is what we needed a little bit, some kind of maturity in the back. We got to be, I want to say in soccer now, everything starts from the back, so we got to have some guys, that are leaders, that are strong, that know what to do with the ball, that know when to, slow the game down a little bit, when to speed it up. So I think these guys did a great job. These guys have experience. Emir has experience. I think when he came on again, I think he did a pretty good job, recognizing the space, when to play forward, when to slow it down, like I said. So yeah, I think it was really interesting. And like you just mentioned, Moise, he's a super tall guy. I think he's really good with the ball as well. And I think this is another guy, he would be able to help us a lot. And honestly, yeah, can't wait for him to get it started with us, because I think, we really need his help, yeah.
Bouncing on the talk about experience, it seemed like, the signings are kind of moving from the back up the formation. Just as they're trying to bring new players in, would you like to see more experience just kind of move up into the attacking phase also? Do you think that's something y'all need?
Yeah, I think we need better players at every position, I think every team needs that, and we know in some kind of way, we're still trying to rebuild a little bit our team, a lot of changes, I want to say, from last year and even the year before. So of course, the goal is to, we like young players, we love young players, that have a lot of potential, there's quite a lot in our team, but at the same time, I feel like, we need a lot of experienced players, so even those young players can actually get some ideas from them, they can get mentorship from them as well, so we're always happy, or we're looking forward to welcome some new guys into the team. So I think at the end of the day, this is I want to say David Lee's job and the coach's job, to look for that. Us players, the main goal is to just go on the field and just give it all and try to do as much as we can, to just win games, yeah.
And I know the break before the World Cup, but y'all was kind of looking at it as a second preseason to get more guys acclimated, especially guys that haven't seen the pitch like yourself. Just have you seen? I know it's been one match, but have you seen the dividends of getting that extra time in over that break?
Yeah, no, for sure. You see, during the first half of the season, there's a lot of guys that were not even, they didn't start the preseason with us. I want to mention Kapita, I want to mention Lasse, for example, as well, so even though I think they adapted to the team pretty quick, they didn't have a full preseason with us. So I think, that little break helped a little bit as well, for these guys, to integrate the team fully, and we got the new guys as well, so it was good for us to have this little break, and just like those little training sessions at the same time to adapt the game plan and to just have and build more chemistry together. So I think honestly it was great, yeah.
You guys are back at home. It's been a while since you've been able to play a home game now after this preseason type thing you're talking about. You've talked a lot about how much energy that gives you. I mean, what are you expecting, and what do you love about playing out at Sporting Park?
Sporting Park for me is just great, honestly. Like, the atmosphere for me is always great. I keep saying it, no matter what the results are, I feel like we always feel the support from the fans. The atmosphere, again, is amazing. And just after this World Cup, I think a lot of people would probably be more interested in soccer, so they will probably want to have they want more. I think they want more. This is not enough. We were able to bring a lot of different people from different communities all over the world here in KC, so I think, the atmosphere should even be greater. So I just want to welcome them to the stadium, and I just want to give everything I get, everything I can give them, on the field, and I think the other guys want that as well. So the atmosphere will be super important. It's not a saying when we say that the fans are the 12 men. Like, this is true. So I think, this just means everything for us.
That bridges perfectly into what I wanted to ask you about. So, I mean, potentially having new fans, do you feel that importance of seizing this opportunity to give them a reason to come back for more, and, wanting to put on a good performance? Obviously you want to win, but to also do it in a way that gives people reason to come back to Sporting Park more than just once?
No, for sure, for sure. I know, like, this is, for sure, this is our goal, you know, us players, the staff, and everybody, you know, in this team, you know, we want them to be back. We want to be better. We want results. So, yeah, we're working every week, you know, we're working every single training session, you know, like they're adaptive for us, you know, to be able to do a good job, you know, and yeah, honestly, I think that we're able to do it. We're able to do it. Like, if we're able to just correct all these little mistakes that we be doing, you know, I want to take St. Louis game, for example. I don't feel like they were much of a threat. Maybe they had ball possession, but I didn't think like they were so better than us or anything. So I think if we correct those little mistakes, we stay focused for 90 minutes, I think we're going to be able to turn things around. And yeah, so I just want to keep pushing. I want the fans to be patient. I know it's hard to say it that way, you know, but I know we're going to turn things around. And yeah, I'm pretty sure that tomorrow will be a good game as well for us to keep progressing and to finish the season strong. Yeah.
So that's my question, is about the fans, because you've been here for a while, so you know what happened last year, you know, you were here like at the beginning of the season, you are here now. So what is the message for to the fans in terms of where the team is heading with this rebuilding process, with the new guys coming? So.
Yeah, so like I just said before, I know I feel like it's easy to ask, you know, but it's not easy for them to stay patient the way they are, because yeah, you just said it, you know, we're in a rebuild. Like, when you think about it, like when I came here in 2024, I think there's only 5 players left from the team that I was playing with in 2024. So this is not a lot of guys, and we changed a lot of things since as well. You know, we changed the coach, we changed the sporting director, we changed the president as well. You know, so a lot of things are just moving, and I know Sporting KC will be back to its glory days. This, I ain't got no doubt about that. So I know we're looking forward, you know, to just come back to where Sporting KC belongs. So at the same time, I just want to say thank you as well, because I feel like I said before as well, they never like gave up on us. I feel like no matter what, we lose, we win, and they're still coming to the stadium. They're showing up. They keep screaming. The atmosphere is great. So I want to say thank you. And I can promise, that's for sure, that we'll be able to turn things around. So, yeah, I just want to keep pushing. The players are ready. We're all committed. The staff is committed. So, yeah, we're going to be there, and I think it starts tomorrow. So, yeah, we're ready for the remaining games for the rest of the season, yeah.